Good afternoon, everyone. Bureau of Meteorology in Australia still trying to explain away these unusual frosts. Coldest start to winter in 36 years, Melbourne. Extreme cold front, warning the people of dangerous conditions. Now the media is in damage control, but I want to bring you over here to OZ Politic with Bobby, running the new Ice Age page outside of mainstream media control, telling you how it is. I've been following links from the Hobart record floods. They have nuggets here about the Antarctic sea ice. Not only what we see off of NOAA and NSIDC, but they also have a different array here from CGW. So when you see articles like this, full-fledged 5-alarm climate emergency, you really need to ask yourselves questions because that ice is not declining like they're trying to make it seem. Well, I guess if it doesn't fit your model, just create something out of nothing. I mean, look what NOAA did when there was no data. They said record high temperatures in Africa, but there were no temperature stations. So what would you like to sprout for microgreens? Amaranth or sunflower? The Adapt 2030 link to trueleafmarket.com for the full array of sprouting and microgreen seeds, as well as all the links to tonight's video are in the description box below. Now, if you haven't been following the news in the last couple of days, Australia has been hit by this major superfreeze. Sent frost 1,500 miles south of the equator. Just did that video. You can check it out in the playlist, previous video. Now the Australian media is in complete damage control, trying to mitigate the story here of how strange this was. Most of Victoria, frost warnings. You're going to see frost warnings, Western Australia, Queensland. Melbourne shivers through the coldest start to winter in 36 years. Oh, wait, that got missed by a lot of media, didn't it? But I like that second paragraph. We've just had a high pressure system pretty much just sitting broadly over Victoria. That's what's causing it. And you know what? In the last couple of days of extreme cold weather, vigorous western airstream. So what is it about these new pressure systems setting up over and coming off of Antarctica? They're now bringing extreme snow, and I'm going to call record cold, as many people are in this last event over the 5 days. But don't worry, Bureau of Meteorology, warm sunny days are making up for cold nights. I'm sorry, I missed that. A warm sunny day, that's like 12 degrees Celsius, that's still 8 or 10 degrees below normal, is not a warm sunny day. Good of you to try to deflect and, pretend like it's warm and barbecue weather again and we can get out the boardies and get off to the beach. No, it's still way below normal temperatures. I'm going to bring you over here to OZ Politic. New Ice Age thread, moderator Bobby. This guy knows his stuff. He has been here for years, plural, following all the changes, writing about the changes, consolidating news on the changes. I will absolutely go on the record again and say, I consider this guy an expert on what's going on, specifically in Australia. If I'm going to reach out to somebody, I'm calling Jennifer Morrissey, I'm calling Bobby, something like this. His whole thread of 350 pages now is just chock-a-block full of links following things that you just don't see in the mainstream media. Record rain, flash flooding, all-time record rains, downtown central business district in Hobart. That's in Tasmania, otherwise known as Tassie. You just don't see these all-time record rains, people being rescued out of their cars actually in the middle of the street. And one of the stories up on the board here from June 16th, showing temperatures plunging below zero. That's in 28 degrees Fahrenheit range or so. Media not really talking about this. They don't want to. It doesn't fit the global warming agenda narrative. But other little nuggets on that OZ Politic board. I've linked everything below. I've linked all these pages that I pulled this information from. I highly encourage you to go over there and take a look at what's going on in the Australian weather scene, as well as little nuggets from the global weather scene, and how much information there is regionally. This is like truly a repository of what's happening in Australia. Temperature anomalies from satellite, specifically lower troposphere just for Australia. And then we find record high ice extent. You know, they're following Antarctica down there much more. In the northern hemisphere, everything's focused in the media on the Arctic. Well, let's go down to the southern hemisphere. They're pinpointing Antarctic sea ice. Oh, that red line? Yeah, that's this year. And then we take a look at NOAA as well, and you can go up to NSIDC and you can find the same things. Antarctic sea ice extent, nearly back to the 1981 to 2010 average. This is a common chart. We see this all the time. But this, again, right in their feed, coming from CGW. I never saw this one from CMAS as well. Those red dots and the blue dots, that's where the Antarctic sea ice is compared to the 1984 to 2013 average, which is a little bit different from what comes off the NSIDC or the NOAA averages. Notice where the red dot is right now? Oh yeah, it's above average. But at the same time, over the news media the last couple of days, a full-fledged 5-alarm climate emergency in Antarctica. So if the data doesn't really fit, you could just make up new data and make up new data sets and then create a new crisis out of nothing, because they're saying we only have until 2050 to act before catastrophic sea rise. But you know, I was told the same thing in the 1990s, that we wouldn't last until 2015, that we had to act in 1992 because we only had until 2015. 2018 at the max to mitigate this massive sea level. We were going to have to leave the coasts. And here we still are. They just pushed the goalpost down to 2050. Same alarmism. They call it the gold standard. Wait a second. You just made up a new gold standard? I thought the gold standards was the NOAA charts and the NSIDC charts for the Arctic and the Antarctic sea ice. But because that's going right back to baseline and they're really showing no losses, they're showing more gains. And what are they doing now? Coming out of the woodwork saying, well, we have 3 new data sets that shows the Antarctic is melting 3 times faster in the last decade than we thought. So what? We're not supposed to use NOAA and NSIDC or even DMI data anymore? That's the Danish Meteorological Institute. What? They're no longer gold standard? We have a new set of rules suddenly because it doesn't fit the old model? I'm confused. Oh, you know what? This all-time record heat that was showed down in Africa here, where it says record heat right in the center there, you can see Southern African temperature stations, December 2016 record heat. Oh wait, there's no temperature stations down there, so how do they show record heat? It's just they're making it up as they go along. Now we have a new climate emergency, Antarctica. And Bill McKibben, truly distressing news from Antarctica. It's a strong sign that things are coming unglued. Yeah, I'll agree, we're going into a grand solar minimum and all of our crop production globally is being affected. That's coming unglued. That we need to transition to a fossil fuel less economy. Wait a second, let me see how that'll work out. And the energy grid crisis point that was just reached in Australia during this cold superfreeze wave, there was such a draw on power that they had to reroute and pull this to try to meet demand along the East Coast and coastal areas, capital, etc. People were paying up to 100 times the usual rate because they're relying on wind and solar, which is unreliable. And this guy over here is telling us we need to transition to a fossil fuel-less economy. We can't even barely keep it together at the current temperatures. These temperatures are going to continue to drop as we intensify into the grand solar minimum. We need to get every possible power source up and running during this transition time. The whole bag of tricks of just going pure solar and pure wind, it's a bit short. They need to add in things like geothermal, gravitational vortex power, magnetic motors. We got clean coal and clean gas. And no, I'm not being paid by the industry. It's my personal opinion. If you can't keep it together to get demand during an extreme cold time across an entire continent because it's wind and solar, you need to have an option B. Truly. If people are going to freeze it, I thought Canada would be the first one to go offline. Their all-time record draw last year. And you see the fragility in the grids across the planet. And now Australia becoming the new basket case, the new #1 absolute perfect test case to show that it's not working. When companies need to pay $14,000 per megawatt hour, so let's divide that out. Remember, 1,000 kilowatt hours equals a megawatt hour, so they're paying $14 US per kilowatt. How much are you paying at your house? I pay about 5.7 cents. What's that going to do to the economy and the consumer spending? Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. As I've said repeatedly, the deeper we get into the grand solar minimum, these signs are going to be all around us, and the media is going to try to deflect, create new scenarios, and we see it politically across the planet. We see it in the entertainment industry, and now we're starting to see it in this whole renewable energy industry as well. And I really encourage you to do your own research to see what's happening with the power demand across our planet. Start with Canada, start with Australia, and see where the drawbacks and the deficits are. And you can see which other countries are trying to march in that same direction. It's madness. That is pure madness, the direction we're trying to get with our power supply on this planet. We're heading into cold that we haven't experienced as a global population in 400 years. And they want to take down our reliable power source. Mark my words, one of you or dozens of you or hundreds or thousands of you listening to this video are going to need to burn your furniture so you don't freeze to death in your house when the power grid goes down. The signs are around us. You're going to have to take your own responsibility for your own survival through this time, because no government is about to help you. You're on your own for your own water purification, for your own heating, your own electric, and your own food supply. That's where we're going by 2023.